Okay, we're going to take a look today at how to do some effects using adjustment layers. Now, so far in my class, we've been using selections. We've been layering things up to display effects through one layer into the other. And so today we're going to duplicate layers again. So I always duplicate the heck out of my layers lots and lots of times because I may mess it up completely and I want to have some backup. So I never delete or get rid of the background at the bottom, but I can drag through and turn all these off right here. So I can turn them on that way and turn them off that way. So what I'll do on this one is I'm going to make my selection first, and I'm going to be using adjustment layers today to make certain things work a little bit better. So you always have to pick which selection tool you're going to use. That'll get you the best results. So that was a quick click with my quick select tool, and it's pretty good, but I need to adjust the size of my brush here in order to get some of the fine tuning done. So if your brush is too big, you wind up selecting things you didn't want because you'll inadvertently be selecting them. So as you can see, I forgot to turn on add to selection. So I'm going to add to my selection with this button right here, add to selection. So that should be adding to, yes. And there it is. And so I've got the tentacles or the antennae. Now that didn't work out great. So I'm going to back up a couple steps and use a different tool. Sometimes it's a great idea to zoom in close and see what we can do with that. So I'm going to use the magnetic lasso tool. Again, I'm setting this to add to selection, which can also be done with shift. And as I'm clicking through this, I'm just dragging along the path. And I'm just going to get the parts I didn't get before. And as I'm closer in here, zoomed up, I might be able to see anything else that I may have missed or inadvertently added that I didn't want. So I'm just going to budge over here. My goal on this, I always think of banana slugs as being pretty bright green. And this one's kind of dull green. So I just want to bring up his colors a bit more. And so I'm going to use my hue and saturation adjustment layer to click on that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the saturation on, because I selected that, it's just that one part. Now what I'm going to do is also mess around with my saturation, or my hue, to find something that's going to green him up a little bit more. But like, that's craziness right there. So let's back it off a little bit. I do want him green, green, green. And somewhere in there. So it's not working out quite the way I wanted or hoped, but look at this brightness. I don't know. It's not going great. You have to mess around with it. Sometimes you have to go red to get green. So what you're doing is you're adding red to the shade, which is opposite green. So I'm not really sure how that works. But find a color you like. For gosh sakes, go purple if you want on your banana slug. Now what I also want to do on this is I want to use that exact selection to, and by the way, you can turn that off and on. So you can, it's not permanent. So the benefit of an adjustment layer is it's not permanent and it's editable as long as you maintain that adjustment layer in your layers panel and don't get rid of it. You can also dull the effects by reducing the opacity a little bit, and that's a cool thing to do. And one other great thing about this is if I go and I want to get the same selection, what I want to do now is actually like fade the color of the background. So if I choose the select menu and choose load selection, the selection I just made is going to be available right here. So I'm going to choose hue and saturation mask, and now I've got that selection again. What I want to do now though is I want to invert my selection. So now everything else is selected and not my banana slug. So now I'm going to try another adjustment layer. In this case I'm going to choose black and white. And wow, that's really doing some stuff to it, isn't it? So the black and white, as we've tried that before, you can dull this. So that's just a layer that's affecting the rest of the picture. And you can see the mask in here. Let's see if we can bump the size up on those. Somewhere in here there's supposed to be a layer options that allows me to set, there we go, panel options. So I'm going to set the thumbnails to bigger because that allows me to see the shape of the mask. And so what you can do with this again is if you reduce the opacity, it just dulls the color. So zero opacity means it's all the way see-through. And I can use this to affect, do I want to go all the way black and white or just a little bit duller? So you can always come back and edit these and adjust them as you go. One more thing I'm going to show you right now is if we go back to select and we load selection and we get the black and white mask for the one we just did. So now everything else is selected. This time I'm going to mess with my layer levels. So what levels does is it controls how lights and darks show up and the grays in the middle. So this one here is darks, I guess. I get them confused. This one's lights. They're the extremes anyway. And this one in the middle is my gray. So what this does, it allows you to control and create more depth and contrast in your image. It's similar to contrast in a way, which is another filter you can use, but it has more control because instead of just strictly controlling your lights and your darks, you're also adjusting that mid-tone there. So um, that's, so if we go back to the opacity one, or the black and white one. Let's bring that one all the way and go back to this one. And so going back to my levels, and you have to click on, if you click on the mask, you're dealing with the mask, but if you click on this over here, that's where you get the effect itself. So if we come back to this, now we can adjust that midpoint, and I can see exactly how textured is this. And so in the next one, I'm going to show you how to make something appear completely black and white and break it into a two-tone image. Hope you learned something from this and you can do some cool stuff with it with this image. Rock on.